And today, what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to continue the migration journey that we took yesterday.
Yes.
Particularly with the Parts Unlimited database application. So I'm going to continue that. And then I'm also going to extend further demos to migrate the application layer as well to the Azure. Right?
I see. Let's get started.
Yep. So as you see here, I just want to give some kind of a background on how this is, the application is kind of architected in the on-premises environment, and then when it gets migrated to Azure, how it's going to look like, right?
Yeah.
As you see here, the app layer is running on IIS server, and then with Windows Server on it. And then the database layer is running on the on-premises SQL Server.
Okay.
The goal here for us to migrate both the application and as well as the databases to Azure.
Okay.
So when it comes to databases, we already migrated yesterday.
Yes.
Using the Azure Database Migration Service, and then we did a near zero downtime migration with our service.
Yes.
We did the assessment at first, and then understand the target, size and target platform, and then we find out if there are any issues to mitigate, and then we finally migrated our database to the Azure.
Yeah.
Now, today in this session, I'm particularly going to migrate the application to Azure App Services, doing a lift and shift migration. And then I'm also going to show how easy it is to do that kind of lift and shift migration using our App Service Migration Assistant.
Okay, so App Services Migration Assistant.
Assistant, right.
Okay, what's the short form?
You can call AS.
Okay.
There is no short form.
Okay,
actually,
fine.
to be
I
honest
was just
with you.
messing up with you.
Yeah,
So, okay.
that's
Keep
okay.
going.
So I'm going to start the demo. For that, I'm going to switch to my demo environment here. Before I go there, so we talked about the application that we have, which is Parts Unlimited.
Okay.
We saw this application yesterday as well, and this is currently running on the the IIS web service on the on-premises VM,
Okay.
and it is also accessing a SQL Server database.
Okay.
On-prem.
Which everything is on-prem. App and database on-prem.
Yes, and then we migrated the database already to managed instance. Today we are migrating the application.
Okay.
So the way it looks like is there are a couple of simple tools that you could use. I'm going to switch to those tools here. So one is, at first, like in the migration journey, always starts with an assessment. So we need to make sure that we assess your application.
Yes.
And then make sure that all the technologies that are being used in the application are ready to migrate to Azure App Services.
Okay.
Right? So for that, there is a simple URL that you can use to really test how compatible your application migrating to the Azure App Services.
Okay.
So I'm going to use this URL, and then I'm going to assess.
Okay.
And then I'm going to put this URL here. This is a publicly available portal. You can put any publicly available URL to this portal. It will really tell you what technologies that are being used, what frameworks that are being used, and then which web services that has been hosted. And it also tells you whether those components can be migrated to Azure App Services or not. So as you see here, everything looks green for here. For example, it is using the PHP framework, and then it is being hosted on Norlight web services and Apache web service. And then now all these components can be easily migrated to the Azure App Services, right? So that is the first thing that you are going to be doing when you are really migrating your apps to the Azure App Service. Once that is done, the next thing is you would want to download the App Migration Assistant tool and locally install on your web service.
Okay.
And then really do the assessment one more time, and then just do the migration.
Okay.
So I already downloaded that the Migration Assistant tool. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to open up that tool and then do the assessment and as well as perform the migration for us.
Okay.
So here, I go here for the
downloaded app.
The downloaded app, which is App Service Migration Assistant here.
Okay.
I'm going to open up that. And the beauty of this app is it already identified that the web services that are being installed on my local computer, right?
Okay.
It is saying that there is a default website and as well as the Parts Unlimited, which is the app that we are going to be migrating. This is an ASP-based application, right?
Of course.
So I'm going to click on that, and then now I'm going to go to the next step, and it will do some kind of a more detailed assessment in terms of what things can be migrated and the things that you need to really pay attention after the migration is done. So it has 3 categories: success, aspects, and as well as the warnings that you need to really mitigate after the migration is done. They're not necessarily migration blockers, but something that you want to look into it. And then if there are any errors that cannot be migrated, right? And in this report, except there are 3 warnings, everything seems to be okay to migrate to the Azure App Services. In the warnings also, I'm going to touch base on one of these, like especially with application settings.
Yeah.
So when you migrate your app, you change your connection strings. There are multiple ways to change the connection string in the web apps. One is through a web config file. The other one is through app settings that are provided in the Azure portal itself.
Okay.
So at this point, the on-premises application is using the web config the configuration file, which is still works on the app services, but that's not the best practice to do it. So right now it is not a migration blocker. You can continue to use to change the connection string over there, but at some point of time you might want to switch your configuration to the app settings.
I see.
Right? Make
This
sense?
gives the warning. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going into the next step now. After this is done, okay, hold on. Maybe
That's scrolling. You can just maximize maybe.
yeah, I'm just trying to do that. So somehow this with this resolution, it is not really
But next.
showing me. So I did the parts next. Let me do it one more time,
Yeah.
and then it's going to come back.
And next is on the left. So because of the
Oh
resolution.
yeah, so
I know.
God,
It's
thank
so
you,
sorry,
thank you
but-
so much.
yes,
So
of
now
course.
the next step is to now you need to log into the Azure portal.
Yes.
To migrate, right? So for that, it has given a code for us. So I'm going to use that code, and then I'm going to log in using the browser. So you see it here, and then you put that code here just to make sure that you're migrating from that app. And then you log on to the Azure portal.
Yes.
Now it is telling you that it is already signed. Now you go back to your app here. Now you pick a specific subscription where you want to really migrate your app.
2.
The 2, yeah. When you migrate to the so I'm going to use the DMS internal demo as my subscription.
Okay.
And then you can either create a new resource group or use the existing resource group. I'm going to use one of those existing resource groups here for now. And then you give a name to it, right? So I'm going to give Parts Unlimited Azure. If the name already exists, then it will tell you that the name already exists. And then you pick a specific region where you want to migrate to. And then here, there are a couple of steps here. When it comes to the databases, you could say that, skip the database migration part because I already did that migration using my Azure migration service.
Yeah.
Or you could say that
DMS, what we did yesterday.
Yeah, through DMS. Or you could also say that, hey, I'm only migrating my application, but my databases is going to be still sitting on the on-prem, so that I'm going to do an hybrid connection, right? So because we already migrated our database, I'm going to use the skip database, the migration, right? You just hit a migration button. Simple, very simple. So I'm going to hit that. And it's going to perform these 3 different steps, and then once that is done, it will tell you that the app is migrated. For the sake of the time, what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to open up a particular app service that I already migrated ahead of this demo, right? So I'm going to go back to my Azure portal again to showcase that. Here, so there are 2 app services that I got. At various times, I already migrated them. So I'm going to get to Parts Unlimited app here, which I already migrated it.
So imagine that wizard finished, and then now you're here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I told you about now we need to change the connection string, right? For changing the connection string, there are 2 ways to do it. One way, the recommended way, is to go to the configuration here, and then you provide a connection string here. In the connection string, you just add a new connection string, but my on-premises app is using the web config. For that reason, if I really want to make a true lift and shift migration, the best thing is that I'm going to continue to use that so that I can minimize the code changes, right? So then you go to editor here, and then this is the place where you go to your web config and then make a change for that. So I already did for that change. I already did the connection string change for this app. Now I'm just going to simply, this is the place, right? I'm going to simply open up the web browser now. So I'm going to go back here again. And then in the overview page where it is telling me that this is the URL that you should use to access the application. So I'm going to simply click on that. And it will take you directly to the app. And And now, guess what? This app is running completely on the Azure App Services and referring to a database which has migrated to a Azure SQL Database Manager instance. And we were able to achieve this whole thing by using the tools that our team built. It's really that easy to perform a true lift and shift migration and end-to-end migration, starting from our app layer to the databases and all the other artifacts that are really required for these applications.
You know, between these two demos would have taken you like 20, 25 minutes maximum.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay?
Yeah, maximum.
No more 20 days.
Right.
All right.
Yes, this is how simple it is. So you can do all the activities that you can do. You know, just app is live on the Azure.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I have two live questions for you. Okay.
Sure.
Like rapid fire round.
Yeah.
What type of applications app service migration assistant support today?
Today, PHP and ASP.NET.
Okay.
Those are the two, and we are trying to extend to other areas as well.
I see. So another question is, are there any limitations for app service migration assistant?
Yeah. So we have a very good document here, and then gives you the step-by-step guidance, just the same way that I did the demo. Here at the end, towards the end, there are some limitations that are also defined here, like it has to be 7.0 IS, and then there are some binding requirements, HTTP and HTTPS. So these are I would suggest that these are the things that you want to pay attention to it to make sure that you're not running into any of those issues. But otherwise, this is the document where you want to go and then start performing the app migrations.
All right, another question. Ready?
Okay.
So when can we see all of these tools integrated into one? Like
yeah,
DMA,
it's a
DMS?
good question. So we have DMA, we have SSMA, we have Azure Database Migration Service, we have app. What we are doing is, remember I showed you data migration hub. That's where we are going to be giving a unified experience that you can have a single place where you can really track migrations across your servers, across your applications, and as well as across your other artifacts in the migration. So I'm going to quickly go and show that interface as well for you here. So
once customers go to portal.azure.com.
Yes, and then it's very simple actually. So basically you go here and then you just type for migrate. And it will take you to the Azure Migrate here.
The central hub.
The central
yes,
hub in the portal. And as you see here, this is a unique, unified experience across your servers, databases, and as well as the applications. Not only that, we take you to the entire journey, starting from discovery, app dependency, and then assessment of their applications, assessment of databases, assessment of data layer in the applications, giving the SKU recommendations to you, target recommendations to you, and really doing a live migrations for both applications and as well as for the databases. So that way you will get a good one stream experience across all your migrations.
All right. Thanks, Raj. That was great.